Hey y'all, good morning and welcome to Daddy's Right Here Live. I'm your host as always, Sabir Aleem. So yeah, let's start this off right. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. Fathers, are you happy? No? Well, we're going to talk about that too during the course of this show. But happy Father's Day. I was trying to get established on Twitter all morning, and I kept getting no internet connection message. Therefore, I've switched up this morning and I've gone to Instagram Live. So if you can't pick me up on Facebook, right, I need for you to go to your Instagram and you can pick the show up there. I don't know what was happening again. Technology, man, it does what it wants to do, and it always shows out when you need it to be working. It's like that toothache. You know how you have a toothache and it's hurting for weeks at a time, and then you finally show up in the dentist's office and you sit in the waiting room and the pain goes away? Yeah. And then you want to get up and leave and the pain starts all over again? Well, it's the same way with technology, man. You never know what's going to happen, but good morning and we're here. So, let's jump right in. My name is Sabir Aleem and I am a father. Yes, I am. I'm a father in every sense of the word. In every sense of the word. And we're going to go into definitions and how we have come to the point of defining males in different capacities based on our life's experiences, what people are telling us, what we're seeing in the media, what we're learning through religion, all of those things. Well, let's first go to Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Yeah, we want to start with some definitions, some real basic definitions, so I can show you how this thing has metamorphosized into what it has, and how we have all this confusion as a result of our own stuff. Because that's what it comes down to. So let's go to the definition. This is Merriam-Webster. The definition of father. Number one, a man who has begotten a child. What does that word begotten mean? We first need to go into an understanding of that, because when you hear the word begotten, and even when you go to search the word begotten, it brings up biblical, biblical definitions. So this is where, you know, I'm a step lightly this morning because the subject matter is not religion, but it says here, a man who has begotten a child. To beget is to produce. It's to produce. What man does is reproduce. Right? What man commits is an animalistic act. It is natural. It is a natural act for an animal to procreate. It's natural. And there's a reason for the naturalness. You want me to give you the reason? So here it is. In order for us as animals, because man is an animal. So number 45 ain't too far off. He just got to get the whole definition. Man is an animal by its own creation. Man is an animal. So what man commits in the act of procreating is an animalistic function. Something that happens naturally. So when you feel yourself, when you get horny, let's go all in because we're adults here. And if you got a child watching, I'll watch the language, but I'm going to tell the truth. So a man gets horny. His penis gets erect. The woman, she gets horny. The vagina gets wet. It's a natural thing to do when you're attracted to a particular animal. Another animal, because that's what it is. It's an animal attraction. And you get together. right? Yeah, you put the stiff penis into the wet vagina, and that's how it happens. So that egg and that sperm cell somewhere along the line connects, because that sperm cell finally wiggles its way through and finds its way into that egg. That's procreation. Okay? So man commits this. So when it says here, a man who has begotten a child, that means that a man has committed an act of procreating. So again, when you get referred to as being a sperm donor, that's not too far off track either. Because it says here in the definition of father, a man who has begotten a child. A man who has donated his sperm, made a contribution to that egg to have a child. And how do you donate? Think about it. You take from self and give to others. That's a donation. So when people use the term, you're a sperm donor, tell them they're right. Because the definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is saying a man who has begotten a child, that means you have made the contribution to this wonderful thing happening. Right? So, now let me go to the definition of mother. And this is a Mother's Day, but I'm trying to take you somewhere, and I need for you to follow me. Right, now, Merriam-Webster, the same dictionary. Definition of mother: a female parent. A female parent. Now, did I just tell you the definition of father? A man who has begotten a child. So there's many implications in these definitions, aren't there? Because what it's actually saying is correct. That the man makes a contribution to bringing forth a child. The definition here in mother says a female parent. Why are we looking in the same dictionary? The same dictionary that has defined father as a man who has begotten a child, but defines mother as a female parent. Why is the definition in Webster's not saying that the father is a male parent? Ride with me here. Just ride with me here for a minute. The same source of information gives a different definition when it comes to father. He is just a man who makes a contribution. She is a parent. You with me? I need for you to stay with me. Just stay with me here. So now, the same dictionary has the definition of dad. The definition of dad, father. Real simple. So it takes you back to its own definition, right, of father. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to stay with me. Don't leave that course. We're on the same path. This is not a subject matter change. We're on the same course here. I want you to take the information I just gave you. Now I want to take you somewhere else. How the radical 60s and 70s helped make Father's Day a national article, a national holiday. This is an article that Time Magazine put out. I don't have the date. But Time Magazine, oh here it is. Time Magazine put this article out, and the article was written by Olivia B. Waxman. And this was June 16th of 2017. It's talking about here how Father's Day as a holiday came about. And I want you to follow me. Now keep in mind the definitions I just gave you. Keep in mind the definitions, right? Father is a man, right, who begot. Motherhood is a female parent. Now, to the article. While Mother's Day has been a national holiday since 1914, Father's Day wouldn't get the same legal status until more than half a century later, when President Nixon, Tricky Dick, signed into law a measure declaring the third Sunday of June be observed as Father's Day. The proclamation acknowledged that it had already long been our national custom to observe each year one special Sunday in honor of America's fathers. And presidents had been making public statements in support of Father's Day since the early 1900s. Annual celebrations for dads date back to 1910, when Sonora Louise Smart Dodd organized such an event to honor the life of her father, William Smart, a Civil War veteran who raised 6 children on his own after his wife died in childbirth. But things changed in the 1970s. Experts say that one crucial force was a major shift in how the American father was perceived. The new fatherhood movement developed in the early 20th century in the midst of the temperance movement and concerns that urbanization was creating a generation of degenerates. As a growing body of research on child rearing urged dads to support their kids not only financially but also emotionally, from changing diapers to playing with them to giving them life advice. As Ralph LaRosa, the historian behind the History of Fatherhood project, notes in Deconstructing Dads, changing images of fathers in popular culture. Stay with me. As such, early iterations of the push for a National Father's Day often focused on validating the importance of the father's role in the family. For example, during the Great Depression, some saw Father's Day as a way to boost the self-esteem of men who lost their jobs or had their wages cut, to show these dads they could still be there for their kids as a companion and male role model. Then, during World War II, when fathers were more likely to be away fighting, Father's Day ads showed images of dads in uniform and touted the role of the father as a protector of home and hearth. So, it goes on and it talks more about the establishment of the holiday, Father's Day. But one of the things that really stood out in this for me, in relationship to the definition here, where it talked about, as such, early iterations of the push for a National Father's Day often focused on validating the importance of the father's role in the family. For example, during the Great Depression, some saw Father's Day as a way to boost the self-esteem of fathers who had lost and they got their wages cut. But it also talked about in here about a growing body of research on child rearing urged dads to support their kids not only financially but also emotionally, from changing diapers to playing with them to giving them life advice. See, when we talk about being a father, right, it's important to understand quite a few things. It's important to understand where we have defined fatherhood, father, where our definition has come from. Now, when I just went to text, Merriam-Webster, whether it's Merriam-Webster, whether it's Oxford, whether it's Wikipedia, they all have the same foundation. All. What they have done over time, and this is something that you'll find in Wikipedia, is people make contributions to that definition. Yeah, they add on their own stuff, and you'll go online and you'll find all these different sources, that define fatherhood, dad, daddy, You'll have all these different sources. But all of these sources have definitions that are by the individual, the writer of that source. All of our definitions of father come from varied sources. And for me, as the child, it begins with who? My mother and my father. I don't know anything about father as an infant. I know absolutely nothing about father. I see two figures. In many cases, in some cases, you don't. There are two figures. As I come into aging and learning and seeing and observing and all those things and internalizing my environment, I begin to form opinions. But I don't know that's mother, and I don't know that that's father. I hear, as a child, what do I hear? Mommy, daddy. I haven't been given definitions in terms of mom, mother, father, dad. Mommy, say mama, say dada. Mama and dada do not sound to me like mother and father. So you're teaching me words, you're teaching me language, and you're teaching me to attach them to objects. So when I say dada, I'm looking at this male figure. Then you start throwing into the word father. We begin the confusion early on. I really need for you to understand this, because this is what we do. This is what we're continuing to do on a regular basis. A child at 2, 3, 1 does not understand the concept of parents. They don't understand the concept of parents from our position. So if I'm 20 years old and I'm talking to my 1-year-old child, I have a 20-year-old understanding, internalization of information, and I'm conditioned based on my environment that I'm trying to relate to the child, and I'm saying a word to the child, and I want the child to understand the concept. You can't understand the concept. The child only understands the word. There's no relationship to anything other than the object itself. Other than the object itself. Okay? So, let me tell you a story. At the age of 24, I had my first, well, she was born in November 20th, 1985, but at 24, I got someone pregnant. Now, at the age of 24, let me tell you what I was doing. Everything wrong. Everything wrong. I was 24 years old. I grew up in a household that was dominated by a woman, my mother, from the age of 5 until the time I decided to leave that home, which I think I was like, I was pretty much hitting the street at about the age of 16. So I was, you know, because that's just what my life was like. I was living with different, you know, family members from time to time, and at some point in time I started smelling myself. I didn't want to be in the house anymore. I didn't like my life the way it was. I wanted to be out in the street. I wanted to venture out. I wanted to live. So I was out in the street hustling a lot of times. But by like 15, 16, I was pretty much living with different friends, kind of riding on the street, just hanging out. And then at some point I left from South Philly, living in Wilson Park Project, and I moved up north. Again, I was living with my sister for a period of time, and then I started living with some homeboys. You know, I was living that life, making that money, clocking. I was in, this is your room, this is your package, this is when rent is due, ride it out. Started DJing at the club. I was doing a club thing. I had a job, a full-time job. I was making paper. I was making paper, but I was in the street. I was hustling. Eventually moved from North Philly Migrated up to Logan, Hunting Park, that section up there. Take the hustle along with me, still doing my thing. Was living with somebody else, started seeing somebody else. That person I started seeing got pregnant. I was living with somebody, yada, yada, yada. The whole gamut, right? She got pregnant. We got married. But leading up to all of that, I was a damn bum. I was totally irresponsible. I was hustling. Fatherhood was the furthest thing from my damn mind. Yeah, furthest thing from my mind. And then it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. First child, when the second child came, I was in basic training, but I also found out, you know, while I was in basic training, that I had another child on the way by somebody else. So I had 2 people pregnant at the same time. Same situation. Living with somebody else, messing with somebody else. Being married, messing with somebody else. Same condition. Same condition. And I'm not saying this proudly. I'm trying to tell you a story here. Because my story is not the only story like this. But there's 2 sides to this story. Everybody involved was aware of my condition. Everybody involved knew what I was doing, knew how I was right, but continued to be involved. And this is not to bash them. It's a matter of ownership that has to begin to happen. Ownership has to begin to happen. On both parts. See, because today's show is on healing the parent-child relationship, but there's things that have to change between the parents. I told my children, my first children's mother, when like years ago, years after we had been married and whatnot, I said to her, I said, "What did you see in me?" And you know, and didn't blink. Well, you had the potential. You know, you were this and you were that. You were smart. You know, all the same things. And she's not the only one who's made such a statement to an irresponsible male. It happens every day. That's why we have the situation that we have with so many of our households today. Not having 2 parents living there. Not having 2 parents actively involved. See, I'm sick of hearing parents bashing and beating up on one another. And not taking ownership for the fact that when you met me, that's how I was. That's who I was when you met me. That's who he was when you met him. He was out on the street clocking. He was out on the street selling drugs. That was his job. Now you think because you get pregnant that he's supposed to stop his job. No, you're not trying to understand your own thinking. That's an expectation that you have. That's unrealistic. That's how I ride. You made the conscious decision to get involved with that person. You made that decision. Why are you mad at him? Why are you beating up on him? Why are you passing that information on to his child? Yes, it would be nice if you would stop doing this. You're a father now. But it would have been nice if you'd have thought about that before you laid up with that person and had unprotected sex as well. Again, there's 2 sides to all of this. It's 2 sides to all of this. And that information that you knew before you slept with me, you harbor it, and then after you get pregnant by me and you have a child by me and I don't change and do what you think I should do, what you're expecting me to do, then you turn around and you give that same information to the child and you feed that child's mind with negative stuff about the father because you are dissatisfied with the circumstance. The circumstance existed beforehand. It existed beforehand. You turned a blind eye to it. You decided not to use a condom. Whether it was encouraged, influenced, or just a damn choice not to. But you knew all those things existed beforehand. All those things existed beforehand. Right? So now you go back to how you define this child's father to the child. The child is forced to make a decision as to what parent they're going to side with, but now you are shaping the child's self-concept, because if I am a male, that means that the interpretations that I have gathered through you, coupled with my immature mind, and then other circumstances that I see around me, now I am coming into this father image within myself. I see this in my household. I see that in their household. I hear what you're telling me. Then I get introduced to others' perceptions. Then I get introduced to religion. Then I get introduced to somebody over here who's telling me the truth about the circumstance. And that's usually somebody that has a connection between one and or both of the parents, because they know that both of y'all are a fool, and I'm going to tell you the truth, and this needs to stop. And the list goes on and on and on. But it's even more traumatic when it comes to a father-daughter relationship, because this also shapes her perception of men. Yeah. That's where you get that nonsense of, well, I'm the mother and father. You don't need no man for this, and you don't need no man for that. That begins to get fed into the mind. It begins to get fed into the mind. And because you believe that, you preach that to the child. You preach negativity about the father to the child, all because of your own stuff. So now you have tainted the child's perception of the world. Of the world. I just gave you the definitions out of Merriam-Webster. Where did you get your definition of father? Where did you get your definition of mother? From your environment. From your environment. From society. From your social groups. From your peers. From your own self, because as you live, you learn and you formulate opinions and views of things. So if my father didn't do what I wanted him to do, right, my opinion of him is what? What am I comparing what he should be doing within my mind to what he is doing? Where does that comparison come from? I want you to go and I want you to grab a pencil if you can right now. Do this. I want you to go grab a pencil and a piece of paper. And I want you to take that piece of paper and I want you to divide it in half. Once you divide it in half, take and draw a line down the middle of it. Then I want at the top, I want you to draw a line across. Give yourself maybe about an inch, so because you're going to write something in there. And you're going to draw a line across the top of that paper. So now the paper should be divided in half. Right? You should have a line down the middle. You should have a line across the top, giving yourself about a 1-inch border. On the left side, I want you to write the word male. On the right side, I want you to write the word father. You following me? On the left side, I want you to write a list of all the things that a male is expected to do, is responsible for. Male. Whether that male is a boy or a man. I want you to write down all those things, because boys and men have different obligations and responsibilities as they come along. Right? Now I want you to be very thorough in that list. Now because of time constraints, I don't have the ability to walk you through that list first and then go to the next list. So I'm going to kind of jump ship here and I'm going to go right to the other list. Now, under that list where it says, Father, I want you to write down everything that you think, believe, understand, know that a father is responsible for. That's what I want you to do. Now I want to take you back to the beginning of the show, and I want to take you back to the definition of father. Right? What is the definition of father? A man who has begotten a child. That means you had sex and you made a damn child. What was the definition of mother? A female parent. I want you to go back to these things now. I also want you to go back to the article when I talked about the shift and the understanding when the Father's Day holiday was established. And one of the things that I talked about in there that came out in that was that society began to recognize that the father was also making a shift in his role. That it wasn't just changing diapers. Right? It went from, because financial is not the only aspect of fatherhood. But when you look at your list, your male list and father list, I guarantee you see nothing in there. Nothing in there about nurturing, about loving and caring. None of that, because that's not what we're taught as males. We are not taught that as males. We are not. That's why the definitions are as they are. That's why society does what it does to fathers every day in the courts, in society, because of the definitions that exist and because of the reinforcement of such definitions. And we need to put that to an end. We need to put that to an end. Because fathers are nurturing. We just aren't conditioned to do it. Because we are always locked and loaded into an expectation of somebody else. And therefore, when we see it in society, when fathers aren't hugging their children, kissing their children, holding their children's hand, sitting on a park bench having a conversation, when we see that, we want to take a damn picture of it because it's a special interest story now. It's a special interest story. Oh, look at this. There's a father. He's holding his child's hand. Get that on film. Folks, it happens every day. It happens every day. A great part of the dilemma that fathers are experiencing, and I've done enough classes, I've done enough trainings for professionals, I've heard it all, I've seen it all, I've experienced it. Listen to what I'm telling you. The problem is the relationship between the parents. You can't get past the failed relationship. You can't get past the fact that he cheated. You can't get past the fact that he got pregnant and he kept it moving because of your attitude. You're not even looking at your own attitude in so many ways. You're not looking at the mere fact that, you know what? We fucked, and then I want to turn around. I want him to be responsible. We didn't make love. We got together and we got it in because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to commit that animalistic act, and now I want to bash him for what he ate. Listen, I'm not saying that it's right. I'm simply saying that how do you fix that? That's part of the ownership that you have to take. Because in many cases, that's what it is. We're being the animals that we are. That's what we're doing. How many of you are married? Come on. There's a values conflict across the board, y'all. Stop being so damn self-righteous. You're pregnant. You're not even married. You're not even married. There's no intent to get married. You didn't even like the Negro. And here you are pregnant by him, and now you want to beat up on him. Now you want to take him to court. Now you want to take him through the ringer. And then you wonder why he don't want to talk to you. You wonder why he don't want to call you. You wonder why there's so much distance. And you can say all day long that no matter what, a father should continue to do this and to do that. But I get sick of hearing your damn mouth. I get sick of arguing with you. I get sick of fighting with you. And sometimes people get to the point where I don't want to be bothered with you. I love my child. I'll see my child when my child gets older. But I can't deal with you. It happens. And it happens vice versa as well. And it's all about bringing resolve to things. It's all about healing. It's all about getting past your stuff. And stop fighting your battles on the backs of the children. Because I can tell you, there's a lot of untruths that were said about me as a father by their mothers. There's a lot of stuff that still has not been discussed with one of my daughters. But it's not for me to put anybody on blast. I'm not trying to do that. I have no intention on doing that. I will not do that. I will say this, that when you see what lies do, what untruths do to the life of that child, you fess up. Because the only thing that you're doing is protecting yourself. Only thing you're doing is concealing your own shame, guilt, and embarrassment for what you failed to do or what you did, the actions that you took. So you make the other parent look bad. You make the other parent look bad. What was your role in all this? Yeah. When we look at our society today, and we use, I hear people make the statement, what's wrong with these kids today? And I hear people reference crack babies, you know, the big epidemic. Oh, let me also throw this in. Childbirth has actually begun to decline. What I mean is it's like it's not really going up. It's not going down, but it's not going up. So people are not having children at the rate they once were. And there's a variety of reasons for that, and that's not today's subject matter. But when we start looking at our behaviors, when we look at our children, look at your child, sit and look at your child. Just sit there and look at your child. And watch the behaviors of your child. Watch the facial expressions the child makes. Watch some of the characteristics that they have around the house, and you ask yourself, why? And you know, a lot of times, and I always say this as in jest, that when a child is doing good, right, that's always attributed to me. Yeah, but when the child is doing bad, you're acting like your mother, you're acting like your father. So all the good stuff I'm gonna own, all the negative stuff I'm gonna give to you. But sit and look at your child. And then sit and look at the child's parent, the other parent, whether a person is in front of you or even it's a photograph. And really look at both of them. You look at the child and you see the child and you say, the child is struggling in school, the child is struggling in relationships, the child is struggling in a lot of areas. And then you look at the picture or the image of the other parent, you say, well, when him and I met, or when her and I met, it was really good, and this is what was attractive about that person, and so on and so forth. And if you take that information and you relay that information to the child, it greatly alters the direction that that child's life is going to go in. When you're apologetic for what it is that you do or have failed to do, when you take ownership for that stuff and you begin to look at those things, right? Now you have to figure out, how do I approach this situation and change the course of the relationship between me, the parent, and the child? How do I change all of that? Well, one of the first things you have to do is you have to be vulnerable. And a lot of times people don't want to be vulnerable because I've stood this ground for so long. Now for me to be vulnerable And it's a difficult thing to do because you decide to be vulnerable, the other person can still be in attack mode. Because you done beat up on them for so long. For so long, you done beat up on them. How do you get me out of that? I can tell you, it's really easy to get started. I am sorry for the things that I said to you, about you, to you, and to the child. And I want this to get better for the sake of the child. Start there. Tell the child some truths. And I'm going to go into this a piece here in a minute on 8 steps you can take to heal your relationship with your father. But you have to begin there. You have to begin with honesty. You know, I don't care how angry or upset somebody is, but a lot of times people are looking for an apology. People are looking for you to yield and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. Even if there's a maybe on it. Now you're in pre-contemplation, as us clinicians say. Now we got you in pre-contemplation. Maybe I was wrong. But when you look at the child and when you look at the other parent, when you look at those 2 images, look at them and search deep down into the crevices of your spirit and say, hey, what am I holding on to and why am I holding on to this? And can my child's life improve if this relationship with this other parent improves? My relationship with one of my daughters is still strained. All of these years, things have been said to me, very disrespectful things. But she apologized for her conduct. And that went so far with me. Because of my own shame, guilt, and embarrassment for the years that I was not there. I couldn't. I was in that life. But for her to be apologetic for her own conduct, wow, man, I sat and I literally cried after the conversation. It goes a long way. As parents, we can only do our best. Some days we need a push to do better. But each day presents us with an opportunity. An opportunity. You can't change what happened in the past. You can make the future better. But our children don't understand until they have their own children. We're very critical of our parents as we're growing up. What they did, what they didn't do, what Johnny's mother and father do for them, what little Mike's mother, you know, we go into all of that, what you didn't have to, so on and so forth, and if you was this, you know, we do it all that along the way. My mother never did this, and my father never did that, and we parent our own children in 2 ways. I'm going to do for my children what my parents didn't do for me. Or I'm going to not do to my children what my parents did to me. That's how we parent. I told you my conditioning when my first child was born. My conditioning when my first child was born. Now that's not talking about, I'm talking when the child was born. I'm not talking about people who may have been pregnant who got abortions because they couldn't fathom the thought of having a child with me. That's a whole different show in terms of that behavior. But I didn't know anything. You learn parenting. I never had a daughter who was married until my daughter got married. So I was able to experience, like, you know, her beau, you know, asking for a hand in marriage and us having a conversation and sitting down and talking together, you know, and this is what we're going to do. I never had that experience before. And when you experience it, it's like, wow. And even when the other 2 get married, I didn't have that experience, you know, with them 2. I mean, I've never had a 50-year-old child to care for. I don't know what it, you know what I'm saying? So parenting is ongoing. You are always learning about parenting. So what I know today, I can't say I wish I would have known it then, but I didn't know it then. And it was my course. It was my course. But we have to start looking at, not just looking at ourselves in a different capacity and how we can continue to evolve as individuals. We have to begin to look at how we can repair. How we can repair. Because our children need healing. But depending on the age, the child is also going to have to begin the healing process for themselves. There's some things that you just have to leave to God. You just have to. And in time, when that person is ready to do their healing and they're ready to come this way to rekindle that relationship, I don't know what the heck just happened here. I got some crazy stuff on my screen. And I don't know. Okay, it's crazy. All right. But when you, I don't know, it seems like the video here is frozen on Facebook, y'all. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened with the Facebook piece. But it died on me, so let me try to go back in. But wait a minute, so I'll see what happens. But listen, if you didn't get a chance to see it on Facebook, you didn't pick it up on Instagram, I'll make sure that it's uploaded onto my YouTube educational station today. But so there's a healing that needs to happen, and I'm going to go out and in, and we get ready to go into the healing. So let me see if I can go out and come back in with that for you guys right now, so that way you can get this second part here, because this part here is going to be addressing the healing process. So okay, so here we go. All right. So anyway, so the child is going to have to, somewhere along the line, begin the healing process for themselves. They're just going to have to. Well, they don't have to. It would be nice if they did. Other than that, they're going to spend the rest of their lives dealing with, the unresolved. And it's not going to get any better, because it's going to get passed on to their own children. Yeah. That unresolved gets passed on to their own children. And once again, information is passed on that is untrue, that is incorrect, that is laden with my unresolved. And we keep this going generationally. So that's why we have what we have today in this generational parent-child conflict, and how our children are separating themselves from that relationship because of their perceptions of parenting. Because it's a social conditioning. Yeah, it's social, because kids get together and they say, well, mine is like that too. Mine does this and mine does that too. And it goes on and on and on. It's never ending. And people begin to just formulate that idea, and maybe that's one of the contributors to the birth rate not going anywhere. Well, I mean, it's moving, but it's not, what it used to be. And people have, it just slowed down. So maybe that may be one of the contributors as well, because of the social perception of parenting. Okay, so here's an article on thoughtcatalog.com. 8 steps you can take to heal your relationship with your father. The relationship, hold on, who's the article? So the art, and it's by Terry Gaspert. And this is an article that was written September 7th of 2017. So, the relationship a daughter has with her father has a profound impact on her life. When parents divorce, it often changes the dynamic of the father-daughter relationship. due to less contact, and it can be a challenge to stay connected. For the most part, a good relationship with an intimate partner is strongly tied to your relationship with your dad. Your father's presence or lack of presence in your life will affect how you will relate to all men who come after him, and can impact your view of yourself and your psychological well-being. Told you this is deep, man. My research for my book, Daughters of Divorce, spanned over 3 years and was comprised of over 300 interviews of women who reflected on their parents' divorce. The most common theme that emerged was a wound in the father-daughter relationship. The following are steps to facilitate healing. Number 1 on that list, be patient and adopt realistic expectations of your father. Give up the dream of a perfect relationship with him. After all, it may take time to reconnect after being distant for some time. Accept that tension may exist between you and can be worked out in many cases, in most cases. Listen to your father's side of the story and try to keep an open mind. Real important. I know that I had expectations of my father. I know that when I took the time, when I was ready to develop that relationship with my father, I was well into my adulthood. But when I took that step, I was ready. I was open-minded. I listened to his side of the story because that was important for me. It was important for me to hear from him so I could establish some kind of connection in terms of this is why this happened. You putting your hands on somebody is never, never, ever acceptable. Ever. Owning up to it was probably the most important part for me. You know, the tension, the expectation, one of the expectations was that when I went to his job to meet him, that he was to give me money. And that's an expectation a lot of children, you know, are given about fathers. Well, make sure you get some money from him. Not make sure you get some love from him. Not make sure you talk to him about what's happening with you in school. Not make sure you talk to him about that new boyfriend or girlfriend. No. Make sure you get some money from him. So in my mind, every time I went to see him, that's what I was like, yo, you got a few dollars? Because I didn't know what else to get from him. And now I'm a male going to see my father, right? So I don't know. I'm going to him about, asking him about more money and hanging out and having drinks, but I'm not trying to, like, get nurtured. I'm not asking him, like, can we bond? Right? Can we get closer? I'm not asking him for that because that's not what I was conditioned to do. That's not what my understanding of fatherhood. Wasn't my understanding. So it says here, listen to your father's side of the story and try to keep an open mind. You know, oftentimes we have discussions and what we do is we defend what mom said. That's coming from mom. That's coming from mom. That's mom's perception. That's her interpretation of the situation. Right, wrong, or indifferent. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Well, he this and he that. Okay, but what was your role in it? What is he telling you now? Now he's come on. You got to fix that. You got to fix that. We made some bad decisions as parents. We did. We made bad decisions as a male and female. We made bad decisions. Number 2 on that list. Let go of the blame. Let go of the blame game and don't make accusations. Right? Be honest with yourself about any wounds that might exist and take responsibility for your feelings. Keep in mind that any healthy relationship evolves and is a journey of self-discovery and mutual understanding. let go of the blame game. And I just got finished talking about that. Stop blaming the other parent for this, and stop blaming the other parent for that. You got to roll in this stuff too. You got to roll in this stuff too. You knew I was a knucklehead. I was a bum when you met me. You slept with me. We didn't use condoms. You slept with me more than once. It wasn't just that moment you got pregnant, in all cases, right? It wasn't like, okay, remember that Friday when you slept with me? Well, that was like 6 weeks ago. It was, in most cases you're involved. You're having sex on a regular basis, unprotected, mind you. But you're good with it. Because as animals, we often are good with things that make us feel good. That's the id. That's that part of self that wants what it wants, and it wants it now, and it doesn't care about anything else. The moral balance comes through our ego and superego. Right? But it's not immoral to have sex. But it's immoral when you have sex and you beat up on the other person who has fathered a child with you, and now you want to bring morality into it and think that they should do this and they should do that. Where's your morality in terms of nurturing that relationship? So it says here, keep in mind that any healthy relationship evolves and is a journey of self-discovery. So you start learning some things about yourself when you let that other parent tell their side. And when you listen to them, you're open-minded about them, telling you this story, and then you begin to look at yourself and how you formed an opinion about that other person based on what somebody else fed you. Now you have to go into self-discovery and look at how, you were influenced by that, not to bash the other parent, but you were influenced by what somebody else said, and then you just automatically saw that person through that lens. Now you have to change that lens. So now you have to learn how to change that lens of that other person, because it's not what you were told that it was. And even if it was told, the truth was told, then the other person told the truth and the stories concurred and that person took ownership and responsibility. Now you have to look at, how do you forgive? How do you forgive? Number 3, explore your intentions and desires. What do you think a relationship with your father should look like? Is it realistic for him to make up for what you lacked in the past? Accepting your dad for who he is will help both of you to reestablish a new bond based on who you are today, rather than on your idealized image of your father from the past. So you need to let some go. You need to reevaluate, reassess your intentions. And I did that with my father. And I'm thankful that I did, because, my father was murdered, for those of you who don't know. And his birthday just passed. He would have been, I forget how, 70 something? My mother's not. Seems like a 6-year difference with my parents. But anyway, so he was murdered. But I'm thankful that I changed my view of him, because I had begun changing the view of self, which allowed me to have that relationship with him, and I began to accept him for who he was, a person, right? What he represented then in that interaction, as opposed to the past, the past, the past, the past. I made that change because I needed to.